Okay, I'm turning the recorder on. This is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. This is the Bluff Town Council meeting. Roll call.
Jim Sayers.
Thank you.
Luanne Hook.
Brant Murray.
Linda, are you muted?
I don't see her on. She's not on.
I don't see her.
Let me go check. I'll be right back.
Here she is.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Linda. Good evening.
Hey, Linda.
So Linda's on. I'm on Ann Leppanen.
Erin Nelson, serving as town manager.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of the Bluff Town Council regular meeting minutes from March 14th, 2023. Has everybody read them? Are there any changes, modifications?
They look good to me, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
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 I
Any-
abstain.
Any noes? Okay, 4-0, and 1 abstains. Next is the approval of the Bluff Town Council special meeting minutes from March 30th, 2023. Has everybody read them? Are there any changes, modifications?
I'll make a motion to approve those as presented also, Mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. This is public comment. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each person wishing to comment. If you exceed the 3-minute limit, without permission, the meeting controller will mute you. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Brant, are you making a public comment? Okay, go ahead.
I can't tell you how happy I am today to see that the former president has been indicted on 34 felonies. And, it's a happy, happy day for me and for millions of Americans who believe the rule of law is what's important.
Are you done, Brant? Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment? Bluff office. Is that Jim Hook?
No, this is Erin Nelson.
Okay.
So this is Erin Nelson. I'd like to speak as a resident and business owner. I have concerns about the overnight parking that's occurring in town. I've seen numerous RVs and car campers setting up in their car along Main Street, as well as in front of the fire station and library. And I think this is a concern that should be addressed. I know it's come up before, but I think as we move into the tourist season, it's becoming more apparent. And I have concerns as a business owner for the safety of my employees who walk out at night, and they're encountering people who just quite frankly I don't think should be there. So I would appreciate if the town would consider this and consider an overnight parking ban, or putting something to paper regarding no overnight camping, as I feel that there are many locations in and around town that are designated for that. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else with a public comment? I'll give it a second here. All right, if there's no one with a public comment, then I will just respond very briefly to Erin Nelson's public comment. This is currently with the Roads Committee, and I've received direction from UDOT on what has to be done. I've also talked to the county about no camping signs on county property, and they're working on that because the library area by the fire station should not be a campground. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. It will be coming to the full council once I get all the regulations gathered together. All right, then we're going to swear in Brian Whitney. Welcome, Brian, to the Planning and Zoning. And before we have him sworn in, I'd like to thank Melissa Eggy for her years of service and for hanging in there despite the fact that her term had ended to be able to cover the business of planning and zoning. So I'm going to step out of the room and have Brian Whitney take my chair, and then Linda Sosa will come in and swear him in.
I, Brian Whitney,
I, Brian Whitney,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commissioner,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commissioner,
do solemnly swear or affirm I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. All right.
Thank you. So,
Sign. All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, I'm really excited to be part of it all. So thank you.
We're
all.
excited to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Sorry, I'm off camera for my big signature moment.
There'll be others.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll get a copy of that for you, Brian.
Great.
I'll probably just drop it off at your house.
Okay.
So I don't have the wording machine on.
Excellent. Perfect. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'll see you guys on Zoom in a second.
All right. Well, that was painless. All right, moving to number 1, discussion and vote on Community Development Block Grant and the American Relief Plan Act matching funds. So as you all are aware, we have the CDBG grant that we've been approved for. And with that, we have the federal ARPA funds and then the state matching ARPA funds that we wrote a grant for. So we have roughly $56,000 in ARPA funds and then about $130 in CDBG funds. When the plan was written, the idea was to remodel the back part of the community center where our offices are, put the food bank in, do the bathrooms to be ADA compliant, and the drinking fountain that's in the room where the food pantry will go. Do some cosmetic things, but the costly items would be knocking out a couple of walls and putting in some windows and doing a patio area outside and having some ADA parking. So when the grant, or when we received the CDBG grant and we did all of the publications, on both of those publications, what we came up with were, by the end of the day, 2 bidders, but they didn't contain bids. And then looking at the progress, which we're making progress now on the CCC, on the Cooperative Cultural Center, but we can all see that this is going to be a 1 to 2 year process for us to be able to renovate and move in, or even get the fire suppression was probably going to be a good year. So I went to the state ARPA, an ARPA match person with the state of Utah, and ran this idea by her. And this is what I want to run by all of you. Once we complete the CDBG project part, we can no longer use these offices for government functions. So when I wrote this 12, 18 months ago, I was hopeful that we'd be in the CCC. And that's just not going to be the case by December 31st. And my question to the state was, if we do the project in a downscaled manner, meaning we do the most important things, the permanent food pantry, the bathroom compliance for ADA, the drinking fountain. In the middle of all of this, we had the flood. And so we have insurance money to cover new flooring in the back here in the hallway and replace baseboards. So we have a pool of money to work with if we just use the ARPA funds and we do not use the CDBG funds. The CDBG, as Erin had explained a few weeks ago, kind of flipped from one criteria to another, more stringent criteria, more stringent reporting requirements, and to be complete the project by December 31st, 2023, and have us relocated, in my mind, is going to be chaotic and not feasible. And so what I'm posing to the council is permission to downscale our project to the ARPA funds and thank CDBG, but explain we didn't have a qualified bid that met the criteria. We'd have to start doing more work on that. And the focus right now and the momentum seems to be getting the Cooperative Cultural Center up and running. So questions, Brant?
I got a phone call. Hang on one second. Mayor, I think that we should stop the CBD process exactly now. You know, it's become too laborious for people like us to do. I'm really disappointed in the extra criteria they've added. I think we should write a letter and really just say this is not something that we can figure out how to get grants from you guys. You're too complicated. Anyway, so I would like to make a motion, if that's appropriate, that we end the CBDG process and use ARPA funds to remodel the CCC.
No. So it would be the Bluff Community Center?
BCC, yeah.
I said CCC and I made a mistake. The BCC, the Bluff Community Center.
I'll second. Is that the kind of motion that you're seeking?
It is.
Mayor? Okay, I second that. No problem.
Discussion, questions?
What does it do? It's our remaining ARPA funds. Is that what we would just spend it on that?
Yes.
And then do you have a bid that would show that we would only have that's how much that would cost?
Okay, so to do those projects, we could do it for the 58 because the CDBG funds and the ARPA funds were broken out. So the ARPA funds were specifically to create the food pantry and specifically to do the ADA compliance. So that's why there were two pieces to it. That's specifically what that's earmarked for. So for instance, we couldn't take the CDBG grant and use the ARPA funds to do what we told CDBG we'd be doing with walls and windows and those types of things.
So my other just wonderment, I guess, is will the food bank be able to use the access that is currently there, like just rehang the door, make it open to the south, those kinds of things? Will they be able to use that access?
Yep.
They can get in and out of there with their dollies and whatnot, okay?
They'll be able to get in and out of it the same way that we had it planned using the full project. There's no change to that at all.
Okay, I just was thinking there'd be bigger doors and a bigger sidewalk going around to that side and a little better entry, but for the as long as that works. So we don't have to use the main community center part to make that part work. If that's the case, that sounds like a good plan to me.
So I think, Erin, you have your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to note that from the town side, because of the threshold requirements for procurement, because it is less than $80,000 that we would be spending, it would no longer require a sealed bid process, and the procurement process would be more streamlined with just receiving a minimum of 3 competitive bids, or ensuring that it's a fair and equitable process, but it significantly reduces some of the hurdles that we were facing with the professional services.
Jim?
Yeah, how much are we gonna let go here? Just
It'd be
gotta
about
figure out.
it would be about 130,000.
Yeah.
And we don't have it, which is the good thing. We haven't, you receive it as you spend it. So you do it with, like we did with the water study.
And we're left with how much for this project?
Roughly 58,000 plus the insurance fund. And I don't know what that is right off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Call a question.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. I will call.
I just want to express my regret that I went to that meeting last year for nothing. And I'm not going to pay the money back.
I'm hesitant to point out that Erin spent hours and hours, so you
Oh.
might want to arm wrestle for who's more regretful.
We could see that coming, I mean, that was
To
just
physically go to the meeting, though, no.
really a nightmare. No, it's the whole thing. It's gone. Thanks.
But we know that we know that now is a good education, and we know what these grants entail to get them done and processed and whatnot. So
It'd be one thing, but they keep moving the goalposts with requirements, and that's what drives everybody crazy. Like, we do something and they change the rules and we have to do it again, and we have to do it again. It's nuts. I'm telling you, it's nuts.
Well, Jones and DeMille's president at the Utah League of Cities and Towns told me we didn't talk about this project at all, but he said CDBG funds, they did a project for a small town, and after the project was done, the town had missed some compliance piece and they had to pay all the money back. And so watching this, it was like, we can accomplish what we need to in a much less pressured manner. So thank you very much. I'll get a hold of Jerry Gamber and explain to her what our rationale is and see what we have to do.
yeah, and that it won't be a problem. I'm hoping it won't be like the CIB stuff.
No.
Okay.
No, this is not where we're just throwing it back because we don't want to finish the project and we haven't started the project. So if it is a problem, I will definitely bring it back to the table and talk about it. But
Okay. All right.
that's
Thank
why
you.
you're welcome. All right, then status reports on committee meetings. Planning and zoning, I don't know if they had a meeting since our last one, Lou. They did. Okay, so
Yeah, they did, and Erin was there. I was not able to make that one, and I've only listened to about the first 15 minutes on YouTube. So, Erin, I hope you can.
Yep, I can do a quick report, and I helped do the draft minutes on that one. So they met on March 15th. They spoke in depth about the land use clearance form, and their intention in going through that was to ensure that the form accurately matches what the ordinance requires. In addition, there are some common areas in which they frequently either find issues or they have additional questions about. So they performed a pretty in-depth overview of the form itself. just to make sure everything matches. They have another meeting tomorrow night, but during the other section, there were concerns brought forth by the public regarding a sign in Cow Canyon. After some brief discussion, the commission identified this as an enforcement issue, and I believe it was sent to the mayor for discussion. Outside of that, as I said, just really, good work on the land use clearance form. Many other forms do undergo, different iterations to ensure it's meeting their needs. But that those were the high level items that would be applicable for you all.
Thank you, Erin. Yes, it was sent to me to look at, and hopefully I'll be talking with Amanda Podmore tomorrow about it a little bit more. I was out of town when this came up, and then I haven't been able to connect with her, but I'm talking to her tomorrow, and I'll bring it back to everybody. Thank you. Active Transportation Advisory Committee's public meetings. I heard they went really well. Lou, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, they did go really well. We had 3 of them. We had the one at the elementary school, and then the one with the government officials and the local organizations. And then the third one was with the residents and any public that wanted to attend. And the school one went really well. Barbara Silversmith is really supportive. Chris Wiltsey from Bike Utah took the kids in and did a planning activity with them on one side. And then on the other side of the gym, Tim and Nancy Swanson did some Frisbee with the other half the kids to get them active and teach them something while they were waiting. And so he only had half the group. So that part went really well, and so there were 35 kids plus the teachers. So a lot of contact there. They all went home with their QR code to do the survey, and lots of kids really interested. So that part was a lot of fun. The government officials one just got re-energized today. I watched the whole thing on YouTube. And thank you, Erin, for putting it on the website, because it's much easier to find it that way than trying to sort through the other things that end up on YouTube. But there were probably 15 online and another 15 in the audience for the government one, somewhere around there. But we had 2 county, the administrator, and the economic development. So Mac McDonald and Elaine Gisler were there. 3 UDOT people, the regional planners, and Jared Beard was online. Chris Hall came in person, and let's see. Oh shoot, who's the other one? Oh, it's the woman that you guys worked with.
Goodhart.
Yes, thank you. Heidi Goodhart, thank you. But they were all 3 joined in. We had a representative from the Safe Routes to School and Zero Fatalities. Mark Maryboy and his wife Rosalind, she works for UNHS, but Mark has his own business going. It had a big comment about working on the footbridge from his perspective and combining with us. So that was really great. USU Extension sent 2 representatives. The Utah Division of Outdoor Rec, Bears Ears group from town was there. Bluff City Historic Preservation, Planning and Zoning they were there. And the main UNHS, we'd invited the CEO, and he wasn't able to come, but has expressed a lot of interest. So that part was real exciting. A lot of ideas and a lot of ways to get some grants and things going, but everybody's aware of it now. There's a lot of, Jared Beard reiterated that there's a lot of money in the state right now to hook communities together and to do these within the towns and to get safe routes for residents. And then the residential one, we had about 30 in person, and then another looked like about 20 online. And the online part is all recorded on YouTube. So if anybody missed it or is interested in those comments, it's real easy to pick up on that. They were each about an hour long. So the next thing that we need to do on that is work with Bike Utah to get the plan going, and he'll have that done by August. So there's a few months in between, and the focus group will meet with them once a month to kind of tweak that as it's going along. But yeah, overall it was really great. And like I say, I got more excited today after I watched the YouTube part of the online people, because we separated into two groups, and the group that was in person did the sticky notes and kind of talked amongst everybody there, and the other group online, Molly led them, and they put in their input that way. So anyway, but yeah, it's going well. So if there are any questions, and everybody was there except Ann, we missed you, but the rest of the council was there for at least one of the meetings. Linda was there for both, and Erin was there for at least one of them. I know there were some conflicts, but yeah, we had a good turnout and good positive feedback all
Good.
around. So.
Well, thanks. I'm sorry that I missed it. I tried to get in virtually, but I was on a train in a canyon, so
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do anything.
I'd encourage you to go to that YouTube, though, if you haven't had a chance yet, because it is inspiring. So,
I'll do it instead of a movie some night.
okay, thank you.
I do intend to watch it, yes.
From my perspective, it was really good. I echo what Lou has to say. There was a lot of interaction, and I was really excited to see the size of the crowd and the content. Thanks, Lou and Molly.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's going along.
So the next is the Cooperative Culture Center's Design Review Committee meeting. And I think probably the date is off. Jim, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, I can. I see Erin's going to have to talk about asbestos, so I'll take this one. This is pretty straightforward. The last two meetings, including the one today, have directly discussed what's to go into the grant application for our EPA grant, government to government grant. That grant is the deadline. Well, the deadline for us is this week. So as I understand it, it's the target is for Friday. And so all these discussions have been around what the DRC recommends should go in to the grant. And I think that essentially it's going to be what we have estimates for, which is certainly the fire suppression system with a lot of details that you'll find out about from Erin, I think, and the a remodeling that will consume $800,000. $200,000 of the grant is a pass through to UDB, to the nonprofit. They're trying to cement. The EPA is very interested in strengthening these partnerships between governments such as ours and the nonprofit sector. So we are made to order for this, but everything is going very well, except that Erin and our good friend Erin and friends and Drew Cooper are really burning the late night oil here, and a lot of appreciation should be expressed for that. But this looks really strong, or everything I've heard about it. So, and other people think so too. Did I miss anything? We'll be taking up more regular business in the DRC probably next week, but everything else has been in the back seat last couple of meetings.
Erin,
Yes.
can we use all the work that you and Drew have done as in kind for another grant? I know you put hours and hours and hours into this thing, so thank you very much, everybody. Jim, getting this thing going, Damien. Good job, everybody.
Erin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I certainly appreciate all the work that everyone is doing. It definitely is a team effort, and Drew has been invaluable in writing the grant. We have probably approximately 18 pages right now that we need to sort through and get into its final state. We've been working with various entities to ensure that it's going to meet what the EPA is really asking for. As Jim mentioned, I mean, I really do think this partnership was made for this grant. So I have optimistic high hopes. Again, this is the one, it's $1 million. So it really could go a long way. And yes, we hope to get it in prior to the deadline, as these governmental grants, usually the day or a few days before, the whole system's really bogged down. So it will be great when we hit submit.
And we've reached out to various other partners and have received, I think, 5 out of the 9 or 10 letters we've requested, and we should be on target for having 8 or 9 partnership letters to up with that piece. And Erin and Drew are just kicking this one. I mean, I can't say enough how the language fits what this grant and the EPA say you're supposed to have. They've got the language down. They've got the criteria really laid out. It's very, very well written. The piece that I have been working on, which is the USDA, we received word today that we are we are in line for the first priority for $50,000 this summer on the USDA. So that's helpful to have that knowledge today, because then when we put into the grant, Erin writes in that there's almost 80,000 from the grant that Jim worked on. There's 50,000 from USDA. We're at 1/2 of what we need for fire suppression. And today we asked, again, UDB to let us know what they're able to put in, but we at least have our funds secured to be able to do it this summer, which means when Erin's done with this grant and we kick out the budget and strategic planning is done, we can start working on the RFP to put this out for the fire suppression. So good job, Erin and Drew, and all the people who have written letters and been supportive of information.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like a good one.
It's really well written. I'm very thrilled with it. All right, then moving to the next one, the solar eclipse committees. There are many of them. Erin, why don't you give us a brief update of what you think people need to know on all the working committees?
Yeah, so we have the overarching committee and then a handful of subcommittees to address each of the specific areas. Tomorrow, we will receive an update from the Human Needs Committee, and Ann maybe can share some of the most important things that are that subcommittee are working on. We have a very active communications subcommittee who is headed by Diana Davidson, and she has put together a very in-depth plan for messaging for visitors and for residents, the visitors and the visited. And so you can probably expect to be seeing some of those materials appearing on our town website, as well as the Business Owners of Bluff website. I'll say in the near future. I don't want to give a specific date, as she's still tweaking some things to make sure that our messaging is in line with, other organizations in the area and the BLM. But certainly, it's great to have such a large committee who can work on, so many of the areas. I will reiterate once again that in the town putting this together, putting together the committee, we are far ahead of our peers in the rest of San Juan County. And, hopefully we're going to be able to really set the tone for the number of visitors. We do have expectations of up to 20,000 visitors that weekend in October. So, more information coming, but we want to make sure that everyone is prepared. I know the Human Needs Committee is certainly focused on ensuring that the business owners, are prepared for this with food and water and fuel and things like that. Ann, do you have any specifics that you'd like to add regarding your subcommittees?
Sure. We have the human needs. It's Jen Davila and Carrie Harris. And we've been meeting every 2 weeks. So the human needs are things like establishing the number of porta potties and where those will go. We have 10 secured from Rick Eldridge, and pretty much of a map that we'll be putting out that shows where the porta potties are going to be placed. Parking for the people who come in for a day trip, not talking about the camping and the dispersed camping and all the people in the motels, but talking about the folks who think they're going to roll in the night before and be here a day and then roll out. What we've been able to secure is permission from San Juan School District for that back acreage behind the new school and the parking lot. Lad Shumway has agreed to let us use the 40 acres he has across from the old transfer station. The Fort has agreed to us using Camp Sticky to, but I haven't nailed down the extent to which that would be used. So we're talking to the landowners who have empty lots that are big, because part of the question for the landowner is, if you don't want parking there, we get it, but do we need to then block it from access? In terms of boats or things where things are. So, there's a number of pieces to the parking, and we know we can barricade our streets, our Class C roads. We'll be looking at a map in the next couple of weeks of which places should be barricaded. We've thought about going up Cemetery Hill, making that foot traffic only, putting food vendors in either the CCC or the community center lot, and then crafts in another lot. We'll have applications online in hopefully the next month for food vendors. Local food vendors will get first choice. We'll have a limit. Those will be the only two places that we're going to encourage folks to set up so that we've got some control over the numbers of food vendors and people wanting to sell their goods. We have had a discussion because the Bluff Arts Festival is the following weekend. And so we don't want to be pulling from them. So we're making sure that we focus on more of the local people who want to have a booth or a table and put something in, but not that type of artist that normally the Bluff Arts Festival attracts. Food vendors, we're working on that application as well. So there are a lot of moving parts. There are things that we're talking about. When we get a little bit further, then we'll bring it to the big committee and get a kind of a generic approval before it comes to the council, because there'll be some expenditures we're going to be having to make, which means putting together the budget, and we're trying to do that. And anybody listening who wants to volunteer on the day of the event or the day before, let us know, and we'll get your name on a list, because there will be jobs for you to do. Oh, we also secure trash with Helgerson Property Management. Brant?
Mayor, this is for the previous topic, so if you're finished on this one, I forgot to ask, a month ago, we talked about having the CCC lot mowed and cleaned, and I've kind of lined that up. Jim, did y'all talk about that today at the meeting at all?
It was brought up by somebody, but it would probably be a really good idea.
All righty, I've kind of got it lined up, and we'll go ahead and get it cut once and see. I'm getting my riding mower going, so we'll have some equipment to use. All right,
Well, did you not say it would cost about $150?
I think about 150 is kind of what we're looking at. It may be 100. I don't know. Depends on how long the ride takes and how much detail in the corners we do. But the question before this board and for the CCC board is, do we want to go ahead and proceed with that?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so we can't vote on it, but I think it falls in that routine maintenance that we normally just approve and then bring it back for the payment. So.
All righty. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for bringing it up.
Any questions on the solar eclipse committees? All right, then we'll move to an update on the roads. Lou, I saw some emails, and it does look like Michael Havocan okayed some grading. And was the grading up on the bench? It kind of went past me, and I didn't pay that close of attention as to what.
Yeah. He the usual grading that we do up on the bluff bench on those roads and out to recapture pocket and that kind of thing. The moisture was just right, so they did that one again, and then also went down and did that first little stretch of Sand Island, and would have done the stretch up Butler Wash that's ours. There's a mile or so in there that's ours.
And then, as I said, in response to Erin Nelson's comment about the parking, because of where our house is situated, I have a really good view of Desert Rose, and not as great a view of the Dairy Cafe, but also of the Bears Ears Partnership, and semis are just parking wherever they want. So when I've had an inquiry from the business owners, I've said, it's on our radar, we're working on it. It's not something we can just go put a sign up, but as a business owner, legally, the business owners can put up whatever signs they want. They just can't be in the UDOT right of way. And I'm working, I have the regulations. I sent them to Michael Havocan to look at. It looks like we start with the state engineer. They come down and take a look and then approve it. And then we can get signs and pass an ordinance and do all of that. So be thinking about where we don't want people parking semi trucks or campers. I mean, the number of people who pull over in an RV and set up their picnic is amazing to me on highway. It's really dangerous, and it's not good for businesses, but it is really dangerous. The next,
Yeah, if we had two signs on our Bluff AD signs that says no overnight camping in town, we could send that message pretty early. So maybe something small on our two Bluff 650 AD signs would alleviate some of the problem until we get it codified or whatever we got to do.
that's a good suggestion. We can run that through the roads committee. Lou?
Well, and just as far as getting the word out that you can camp or can't camp, if we get to the point where we make that ordinance, it would be something to put on like the Bob website. Just would get the word out to people that if you're in town, you need to be in one of the campgrounds, if that's what it turns out that we do.
Good points. I think on the playground committee update, there isn't one at this point. We kind of stalled out on grants, and the fact that I was out of town, I completely dropped the ball with getting back with Jocelyn Myers, and now that I'm back physically, I'll be able to do that. Bluff Waterworks meeting is April 12th at 7 p.m. That's the next one if anybody is interested in going to it. Then number 3, update on the asbestos testing of the Cooperative Culture Center's tiles, and then the status of the Environmental Protection Agency grant application. So, Erin, why don't I turn this over to you to fill in whatever hasn't been filled in.
So based on the consensus during the special meeting last week, the council opted to continue for both the application for the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as moving forward with getting asbestos testing done. Based on so I reached out to 4 different firms who do inspection and testing, and based on the information provided and the quotes provided, we are currently scheduled to have an individual come in on Friday, April 14th to do an inspection. And I do feel fairly strongly I would recommend to the council, to keep with this progress, because if asbestos is found, it is likely that we would need additional funding for mitigation. In our conversation during the DRC today, we inquired again whether UDB had seen documents from the school district from 2005 to the end of the occupation. As a school, and at this time, those documents are not available. We do have reports from 1989 through 2005, which indicate that some testing was done, but there are multiple areas in the report where it indicates that no samples have been taken. Based on the information in the reports, I would highly recommend that we go with the recommendations from a asbestos inspector who would tell us, based on the construction that we project needing, based on his analysis, we get the number of samples that he recommends, and we will provide him with the reports we have available. The issue with some of the reports is figuring out exactly what was sampled. So again, I think I would recommend that we go with what they say, noting that there is a financial consideration. However, given that we are at the point of recommending that materials be disturbed, I mean that's the critical thing, is up until this point no materials have been disturbed, and therefore the school district would have had limited reason to do sampling. But we're now saying we're going to move forward with renovations. Clearly, asbestos is not something that we want to really mess around with or risk not having the information available. So with that, I think, we'll figure out exactly what's needed. And again, I understand the concern of not wanting to oversample, but we will ensure that we get the samples needed to put this in a place where it's not necessarily shovel ready, but at least get us closer to doing renovation. Questions and concerns from the council?
So today in the DRC meeting, it was represented that, previously, last week I had a conversation with Dave Conine. We did not know that 2 binders were with Dave Conine, and then 1 set of papers are with Damian Bollerman. Damian is in Portland and not available, and Dave has 2 binders. I will make a concerted effort this week to retrieve those so that we have all the records, because in my phone conversation with Dave Conine last week, he said the 2 binders, one was pre-2005 and one was 2005 on, whereas today he said he didn't have anything from 2005. So it's imperative for our due diligence and to be able to show the inspector what has been done, that we have all of materials back. Then I would recommend to the council that we secure all documents that are currently at the CCC in a file cabinet that's locked in inventory.
You need a vote on that?
Nope. It's just
Okay,
going to happen.
we're just going to buy a lockable file cabinet and put them in, right?
Yep. We'll have an inventory, a checkout system so that this doesn't happen again on either side. But those documents need to be secured because they are the historical information about the building. And
Correct.
no one person should be holding those documents.
Is that something, do we still have Kathy on? She can scan that in and we can get it electronic?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great.
Erin?
One question for the council. So, again, it is time sensitive that we get this addressed so we can figure out to get a better idea of the costs. But since we don't physically have those documents, would it be advisable that if we don't have the documents in time for the inspector, that we probably push that inspection back so he has everything available?
Jim?
I'm kind of the opinion that we're talking about $7,500, $8,000 for an inspection. Is that correct? I know I know it's a big step, but I think perhaps it would be wise at this point, as we go along, to learn about this as soon as possible. And if we don't get the documents, I'd like to make an allowance of some kind through a vote, if possible, to just get the darn thing inspected and pay for it and move forward on that. Anyway, that's my sense. I don't think we ought to mess around with the asbestos.
And that makes sense to me too, because like you say, when they started talking about selling the school and moving out, they weren't doing any remodeling. They didn't have any reason to continue testing. So I think it's smart to do it now.
They put a new roof on there and did some testing when they put that new roof on there, I think. So yeah, but let's get it. We gotta know what's there and let's move forward. I think this is great.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make it. That as needed, 75 up to 9,000 for testing of the asbestos at the CCC, particularly in the ceiling tiles.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, it's unanimous. And I think that probably you've covered the status of the EPA, or is there more, Erin?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
All right, number 4, update and discussion on Sunrise Engineering's change applications matrix and map. We put them on hold while I took time to get a legal opinion from Chris McEnany about whether the change applications would affect our priority dates, and a memo went to each of you. The bottom line from Chris's office is no, it will not affect those priority dates, and we're fine moving forward. So I can go ahead and contact Sunrise and tell them to finish up the work and the matrix and map and everything and get that wrapped up. Does anybody have any questions or want to do it differently? Okay, so I'll just get a hold of the engineer working on it and tell him to finish up. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Then number 5, we've had Sarah Barak ask for use of either the Bluff Community Center or the Cooperative Cultural Center for the Star Watching Party on October 13th, 2023, and additionally purchase of a second measuring light. I agree, having a second light would be really helpful so that you can have 2 teams going out to do measurements of the light. And I know we've talked about waiting till we get a little closer to the actual occurrence so that we can determine if the community center or the cultural center would be a better spot for a stargazing party. Thoughts?
We broached that at the DRC meeting today. Conine did not know about this event, celestial event. So we put it in his head, and he's going to carry it to UDB. And it is culturally, traditionally quite inappropriate for in Navajo traditional culture and religion to go outside during an event like this. So I know they're not going to be interested in that, in the eclipse per se, but the days surrounding the eclipse, I don't know that they would have any problem with anything that brought more attention and more recognition of our partnership. I think that would be really a boon, and I suspect they will feel that same way, but we'll find out at our next meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, and my thought is it probably, like the Star Party, ought to be tied in with wherever the vendors and that stuff will be, because that will be taking that area out for the helicopter landings and whatnot that we talked about earlier. So if they were all in the same place, that would free up the other one to be that emergency staging area, if that's still on the table somewhere.
Yeah, it's still on the table, so I think we'll just go back and revisit it after Jim and the committee find out what the use would be like for the CCC. And how about the purchase of a second light meter?
I think that's a good idea. I mean, the time I did it, it took a couple of hours, but it's nice to have another one you can split up, or you know, it's always nice to have a spare.
Sounds like a motion to me.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, then.
Couple of just little random thoughts, Mayor. I should do this afterwards. I'll do it at the end of the meeting. Go ahead.
Okay. Then Number 7 on the Community Impact Board project list in the inventory of assets. I hopefully will have the inventory reviewed and up to date within the next week. But I added, without any discussion, I added to the Community Impact Board project list asking for a grant within the next 2 years for not a bulldozer, a front end loader, some machinery to move dirt so that we don't have to keep renting machinery. There are grants in the CIB, not necessarily loans, but actual grants for that, for heavy equipment. And I'll fine tune exactly what we're asking for, but we had to let them know if we had any new projects, and I just tossed that in because I was not, I just tossed it in. So I'll bring it back with some specifics. Any questions about that? Of course, I'll have to ask somebody how I know what I'm asking for.
Way to think on your feet there, Mayor. Good job.
Yeah, well, that's participatory by the town council as well as the fort. And Kathy Carson and Linda Sosa had eggs being stuffed. I picked up a little bit more candy to stuff more eggs. I did see an email today that I may have said 8:30 and it might be 8:15, so I have to clarify with the fort. And if it is 8:15, we will need to change our poster, but that's easy to do. But I saw something that indicated we had 2 conflicting starting times.
Last year, I know there were a lot of people involved that were wishing it was later for their kids to wake up and get there. And there was some conflict with something that was going on at the old school there. And I don't think there's any conflict this year.
No.
So it might be that if you're going to have to change the time anyway, I know the people trying to drag kids in were hoping it would be 10 o'clock or something more like that.
Yeah, I think that the problem with the 10 o'clock is that the fort, this is the start of the tourist season. The fort has already seen a huge uptick in people and vehicles, as evidenced by the knockdown sign a couple weeks ago. And so I think that they preferred starting earlier rather than later.
Okay.
Otherwise, they didn't have the volunteers available or the parking space.
Okay,
Linda.
that's fine. Just as long as it's been considered, that's fine.
Linda?
I was just going to say there are some activities after starting around 10. So that was the other reason for starting early.
So just trying to bring your kids or go over there yourself and snag an egg full of sugar. Number 8, when we were at the Cooperative Cultural Center about a month ago with different people from UDB, Norman Lehman asked for use of one of the bins or use of the bin at the CCC for Earth Day because he's going to be picking up trash. And Earth Day is somewhere around the 23rd of April, I believe. And
22nd, I think,
is it the 22nd?
usually.
So I really appreciated that he asked rather than to fill the bin. And we find out that we don't have an empty bin. But it seems to me, and this is just me, it's a really good cause, cleaning up areas that have trash and getting people together and working on that. So I would be in favor of having that bin used at the CCC to put trash in.
So would I, Mayor, and we could let Helgerson know that there's maybe some extra traffic there in case it gets full. So do you need a motion for that?
Yes, because we would have one more, we'd have an added fee for dumping it so that it would be emptied.
I'll make a motion for Earth Day that we allow Norman to drop that stuff in there.
Second.
Any other questions or thoughts? Linda?
Should we include Jenny in this question since the food pantry is now paying for the dumpster?
I'm talking to her tomorrow. We should, yes. But I think in order to keep it moving, we should vote. And then, because it doesn't fall on during the week that she uses the dumpster, that's probably not going to be a problem since we would be paying for that dumping of it. But I'll run it by Ginny, or if anybody else bumps into Ginny, or if they're listening tonight, we'd like to be able to use it for that. So, thanks, Linda, for pointing that out. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm,
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Then Utah Navajo Health System would like to be able to use the parking lot by the senior center to be able to have a mobile health unit there occasionally. I don't think they've nailed down how frequently, but it would be similar placement, I imagine, to what they did with the mobile vaccine unit and mobile testing units.
I make a motion, we do that.
It would be during the week.
Wonderful partners.
Yeah, it'd be during the week. I've talked to the county. I talked with Mac McDonald and Tammy Gallegos to clarify that that is something that the senior center wants, and it is something that they want. Jim?
Second.
And they used to do that in the past.
That's what I thought, and it's such a public service. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not going to interfere with anything. We've got plenty of space. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
I'm,
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone?
And will they be posting the ads about that or publicizing this at the post office and so forth?
I'm assuming that UNHS will do what they did before when they were doing the testing. They put out ads and they run everything, but I can clarify with UNHS or someone to be sure that that happens.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
All right, number 10, just a reminder of the hierarchy. If I'm not here, then the mayor pro tem is in charge. If the mayor pro tem isn't going to be here, meaning here in Bluff, then we need to have a designated person. And the reason I'm raising this is that if there's an emergency and somebody has to be doing something, it's not enough if Jim and I are both out of town and you're trying to log us in or find us. We need to know who is actually in town. And so I think I just would like a suggestion on how we approach it. Normally, or in the past, what I've done is just said, I'm going to be gone. Jim is also unavailable. And one of the three of you, starting with Brant or Linda or Lou, but I think we probably need to be a little more specific in the order so that we're not kind of scattered. Thoughts on this?
My thought is that we're all kind of reachable no matter where we are, equally reachable, unless somebody's completely, out of all contact. In emergency situations, I think we've all agreed that we contact the emergency people, which would be the fire chief, the sheriff's office. I don't know exactly what we can do as council people.
Okay, so I can give you a very specific example of something that I needed to sign, but I wasn't here and I couldn't sign it because I couldn't do it remotely. And it had to be in by a certain time and Jim wasn't as available. So those are things, there are some time sensitive things that are not, quote, emergencies for health and welfare, but they're things that have to be done. And we need to have a process for identifying it. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Luanne would be a good choice here because the lodge is open a lot, obviously. And for many years, I know that the Hooks have done this kind of service for the town informally. It used to be where you called when there was a problem where something needed to get done. And the Hooks have did a really good job on that over the years. Thank you, Jim and Luanne. But I think that her contacts with the emergency services and with the county are lend her to do this. Really are good. It's a good thing for her to do. So
Is
that's
that a
my
motion,
that's
Jim?
it can be. Yeah, sure, that can be in motion.
I'll second that. It makes a lot of sense to have our emergency folks involved. So I'll second that.
But,
Lou,
you know,
and then
this
me,
would be a
and
little
then
discussion.
Linda.
Whoops, you guys are both. I
Talking at once.
didn't hear you, Jim. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, if there's any discussion, we could have it before we vote. I didn't want to overrule everybody.
So I guess what it, like on the emergency things, we sort of kind of automatically go in, but for this, it would be just an approval that I would be another signer in the event neither of you, pro tem or mayor, were here and something needed signed. I mean, that's
Yeah.
on the advice of the manager, or who's advising me to sign things.
Probably the manager and probably Ann from a distance.
Okay.
Council's giving you the authority right now. So, once we vote, you'll have council authority for this third shot.
And most of these things, Lou, are things that we know we need to sign. It's just that they don't always get them to us until the 11th hour. And it has to be signed by the end of the business day or the end of the week. And so they're not going to be a surprise. You're signing something that no one's been talking about or aware of.
Okay, well, that sounds fine.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of the agenda other than other. Is there an
Are you going to vote on me?
Oh,
Two
yeah.
others.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I
Anyone
have two
opposed?
others.
Okay, hold on. So it's unanimous. All right, Brant.
Just a couple things I was thinking about, Mayor. Our B&B policy requires kind of posted rules. And I'm thinking that we should, from the town office, mail a form out that you can fill in those rules and post in your B&B, and everybody would have the same thing. It shouldn't require much, but when we pass that ordinance, I think it'd be nice to just send out a B&B rules reminder. And also think that we need a reminder about working toward dark sky compliance. There's we might as well go ahead and bring it up now and say the deadline's coming on the 31st of this year. Make plans to have your lights changed now, and it won't be such a rush job. So 2 reminders I think would be good to come from council, from the town.
And we talked about setting up a committee. I think we postponed that till May or something, but it would be nice to put that reminder out. Like you're saying, Brent, saying, hey, and there's also going to be a committee who wants to be on it. Think about that before we have the meeting and try to find people.
Since both of these require action, I'll put them on the agenda for next week.
Thank you.
And Linda, go ahead.
So I have 2 things now. The ordinance for short-term rentals does list everything already. So, I mean, it could just, that could be sent out again, or something similar. But my other thing is, I just wanted to mention that Carol Shook and
Tina?
Thank you, Tina Krutsky did a lovely potluck party at the community center for for residents and new residents. And it was just really fun. People got to know each other, and it was, private citizens doing this, and it was wonderful. There were between 50 and 60 people there. And I'm just thanking them for doing that.
Wonderful.
That was a good thing. Jim, did you have something?
No, I did not, accept that I'll move to adjourn as long as I'm on camera.
7:09. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, I'm turning off the recorder and logging off. Thank